Autoweb. Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Autoweb.
Hey everybody, this is Sean V. Bradley, the president of Dealer Synergy, baby. And I'm also the creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Facebook group, the #1 group on Facebook, and the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast. And I've got a very special treat today. I'm going to be interviewing the Chief Operating Officer of the Foundation's Automotive Group, Mr. Chuck Kramer. And before we get into Chuck and everything like that, man, they've got 22 rooftops in the United States and Canada. And he's going to share with us in the next 5 months, they're going to add another 23. So they're going to flip it. So they're going to have over 40 rooftops in the next, 6 months. So man, Chuck, first of all, that's phenomenal. Congratulations on all of your guys' profound success.
Well, thank you, Sean. It's actually kind of surreal if you think about it. I mean, we just started this company. Kevin Kaczynski, the CEO, founder of Foundation Automotive out of Calgary, actually came up with this idea in 2017. Was coming into the United States. Him and I met, and we're talking about. I had just left a giant dealer group. We'll talk about that here in a second. And I was looking kind of for my own dealership to own it 100%. Met Kevin, started this company. Met him in 2018. We made our first purchase, closed on our first store in June of 19. And we have grown to 22 stores since June of 19. We just closed on another Hyundai store about 30 days ago. And right now under APA and LOIs, we have another 23 stores that should be closing by January. And in fact, it's actually been an unbelievable situation, and it's really a dream come true. And it happened so fast. It's kind of hard to believe this kind of successes came so fast.
So yeah, let's talk about that because This is not normal times. I mean, we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic, and to be able to hear of your massive growth and as quickly, how did you guys pull that success off during a pandemic? And it's really interesting because ultimately when I joined Kevin in 2019, obviously nobody was even talking about something that could be so monumental. In fact, we kept talking about 2008, the event that happened 2008, 2009, how the auto industry crashed. And, we always business modeled our businesses. If this happened ever again, how would we survive? And then as we started acquiring stores, and Kevin is an amazing man. I mean, he's an entrepreneur, started in the car business, in a very, very young age in the auction business, and had multiple dealerships and multiple businesses. But, we were always prepared because we kind of grew up, I feel like, in the mean streets of the car business. We were always prepared to come to any adversity and survive out of it. So as we were moving around 19, we were actually had stores under LOI, which was the MedVed stores in Colorado. In fact, one of the stores in March of 2020, the day that we closed on the stores in Freestone, it's in Fairfield, Texas, that they shut the country down. So what was interesting about that of it is, and this is one of the things that I think that's helped me through my career. I'm a survivor, and most people I think would have probably thrown in the towel because we had a lot of banks that pulled out, and investment guys that pulled out and said, hey, we don't know what's going to happen, and we think the world's going to end. So ultimately, I mean, Kevin and I virtually sat there one day in March and said, is this it? Is this over? And I said, there's no way. I mean, there's no way. If there's a will, there's a way, as they say. And I say, yeah, we're down. So we just kind of backed up and went back and sold our story and sold our proven track record and was able to get some investors back online. We got some banks back online to do the financing because at the time, I mean, if you guys in the car business are listening, if you are buying dealerships, they shut down the floor plan. Alley shut everything down. Yes. No manufacturers was going to bring on a new liability onto their books, and they just told us no. And after we had written commitments, so it was really interesting that through those times I kind of look back, and some of the darkest days of my life were sometimes the best because when the darkest days are there and you can overcome those achievements, it becomes it becomes an amazing stepping stone to our future as we grow our companies. So it was very difficult, and even the manufacturers. I mean, think about this: is when you get factory approval, it takes about 60 or 90 days.
the manufacturers weren't coming to the dealerships. In fact, they were at home. Kevin and I put on a mask on. We were very safe. We traveled through the whole pandemic, actually knocking on doors, doing a lot of virtual meetings. We were very blessed that we had this track record in our past that shows us that we have successes and we do take care of the customers, employees first attitude, and control market share. And those are the things that we did. And it was very tough. I mean, I look back at the deal, I don't even know how we did it. But we survived. We closed the Denver deal August, about a year ago this month. And Denver was one of our biggest achievements. It was one of the largest dealer groups in Colorado, in Denver. That's been an amazing guy. And I think you might know the managing partner operator out there, Josh Lestis, closing big. Just a massive individual, positive. We met him and we told him what was going on. He said he jumped in with both feet, and he's done an amazing job out there with two other managing partners. Is Travis out of Canada, and another guy, a 27-year-old Hispanic that it's a great story someday. Grew up in the business, and now he's the managing partner of two largest Ford store and a Dodge Chrysler Jeep store up in Castle Rock. We put all our faith in these guys. And if we talk about me and Kevin, it's really about your people. It's about the guys that are in there every day grinding it out. That's really what it's about. So
let's dissect the organization right now. Where are your locations at? So you have stores in Colorado, and where else around the United States and Canada?
Yeah, so we Cleveland, Ohio, have Foundation Honda, which is a great store. It's a great story. Delano does a great job. He's the managing partner there. We have stores here in Texas, which is Eric Barbosa. I don't know if you know Eric. He is a big fan of yours. Actually, what's funny is he models a lot of your way your success has been. He tried to models that, and he's done a fantastic job in Facebook. He's a really good social media influencer. Guy worked for me for 10 years out of LA. Just an amazing man. He runs the Henson Group. We have Kip Hines, that's in Fairfield, Texas. We have 3 stores and a truck depot. We do a truck manufacturing company. We build beds for commercial trucks, and that's Kip Hines, which is a funny story. His brother's Vanilla Ice, and he was he was Vanilla Ice's manager through the years. So he's quite a guy, understands adversity, hard charging guy, does a great job in Fairfield, Texas. Then we go up to Colorado and Castle Rock. We have the Ford, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, GMC, Buick store there in Castle Rock, 3 locations. Getting ready to get 2 more ad points in that location. So that area is growing big. We got Josh that's out in Wheat Ridge, and he's got Kia, Cadillac, Chevrolet, and he's just got 2 new Hyundai stores in Boulder and Westminster. Does just an amazing job. Then we have up there in Kramer, the Kramer stores up in North Dakota. We have the Subaru store, and then we have the Kramer Chevrolet store, and that's Terry Wiesner as the managing partner up there with Jason Ronsberg. Does just a good job, good wholesome group of people. North Dakota, we just got back from. It's a great place. Then we have stores in Drayton Valley, Squamish, which was out of Whistler, and we have it's a great operator up there. And in Vancouver, we have a Dodge Chrysler Jeep store in Vancouver, and we're getting ready to expand. We'll have 6 dealerships in Tennessee. We're going to be—can't tell you where they are. It's under, right. But we have some more stores in the Texas area that are coming on board. We have another 6 stores that are going to be down in Denver, in the Denver area. So we're growing and expanding, and that's kind of been our group. And then we also have, Wait a
minute, Chuck, hold on. Like, you're just as fast as I am. There's so much information here. Yeah. I want to just process this. People are already commenting in the Millionaire Car Salesman group. They're blown away by what you're doing. They're saying congratulations.
Thank you.
Cole just said that you were an incredible mentor and the best car guy that he knows. So you're getting compliments and everything. Here's my thing: is that you're the chief operating officer, of the organization, of a multi-billion-dollar dealer group. First of all, can you explain what is the job description? What is your role in this massive organization? What does it mean to be a chief operating officer?
So, I'm also an investor. There's Kevin, Todd Dingelman, and another gentleman by the name of Derek Slimko, our CFO. We all are investors in the company. So we own foundationally the company, what they say, Foundation Automotive. And then I am the chief operating officer. What's interesting about it is, one man can't do it all. So we have lanes in our company. So our CFO, Derek Slimko, is an amazing guy that handles everything to do with the controllers and the accounting side of the deal, which we talk every day. But I oversee all the operators. In fact, I I have been instrumental. I basically hired all the operators along with myself and Kevin. And Kevin and I mean, we literally talk every day. In fact, he lives within 20 minutes of my house. He moved here from Canada. So him and I talk every day, but I hire and set up all the operators in each one of those stores and set up the dealer agreements. In fact, our business model is a little bit different, Sean. And one of the things that I learned through the 38 years I've been in the business is you're going to have a partner. You need a true partner, and all our partners are true partners. So we bring a guy in that is extremely talented with a little bit of money. We help in some ways, and we bring him in as a true partner, and they are the managing partner of the face of the store. I manage those guys. We have a great relationship, and we manage on, I think, 4 core principles. And one of the things of it is we want very extremely happy employees. We need good employee satisfaction. That's extremely important, especially in today's age. We need a good solid foundation in the community, meaning that we get into the community. We just signed a couple of deals where we actually are, we give cars away the teacher of the year. We buy football fields, we get in the community. And so we become true community partners. And then the other thing that we do is get really strong into with the manufacturer. We get it with the manufacturers, and we get into a situation where we want to be true partners and we want to dominate. I keep saying, I want my unfair share of my market. And the most important is the customer service is extremely important, the customer experience. I think if you can't take care of your customers, it's time to get out of the business, because the business has changed so much. So I oversee the operation of all the 22 stores, and then now the new 23 stores coming on. I do have help. I don't do it by myself. I have Cole is a marketing vice president. I have a vice president of fixed operations, used cars is Chris Shearer. Susan Roy, she's over our special finance division. We have an amazing marketing department. We have great partners, Natalia, she over our HR. And we have one of the best recruiting companies. It's a Foundation talent acquisition. We have Foundation Automotive, which we have a whole group of individuals trying to bring people into our company, which we need a lot of people. If you guys are listening out there and you want a great career opportunity, this is the time to reach out to us, because we have so many great openings and some great positions for their company. I feel like that we could be a great partner to some great employees out there.
Perfect. Let me just chip away at some of this stuff, because this is all awesome.
Thank you.
To me, I've worked with a lot of very, very high level dealer groups. And one of the key parts to a dealer group's success is scalability, which means that if you have a proven model, like you said, you had your 4 pillars, but if you've got an operating model, whether it's your road to the sale, it's your trade-in processes, how you handle different things, almost like Starbucks, you have the recipes. What you need to be able to do is create a formula or create a strategy that works, and then scale it and replicate it. So I'm assuming that if you've got 20 plus stores and you're about to acquire another 20 plus stores, you guys have gotten very, very good at following standard operating procedures. True or false?
True. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that that's what cripples a lot of these dealers, especially not independents, but single point, stores and mom and pop stores, is that they're not disciplined to follow the yellow brick road. And I think it hurts them. Can you explain to the audience how important it is to have a proven model for scalability?
Yeah, I think what you have to do is you got to take, we took a little bit from the past into the future. The business is different. I mean, it's just, let's be honest. It's not like it was when I became a car salesman in 1983. The business is completely different. We have so many amazing tools out there for the industry. So first thing we did is we built a foundation. When Kevin started the company, he started it kind of backwards. He hired analysts. We got some of the best analysts and the brightest young lady named Samantha and Mike, that basically go out there and they just crunch and put data together and look at scenarios. And basically with any time when you obviously run a business, we all know this, you got to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, then all you're doing is flailing in the wind and you're just riding the good times and the bad times. We really have a lot of good times. We don't have a lot of really bad times. And the reason we don't is because we have the scalability to obviously make those changes. And the way we do that is each one of my guys, like Cole Kaczynski, he understands the marketing, and he's a young guy. He totally understands the minds of what our shoppers are looking at right now. So he built a business model based on the marketing. We use AI, which is an interesting thing that I've learned the last 2 to 3 years. We're actually with a company called Connect AI that does an amazing job that basically helps us, and it changes the way that we are marketing. So we have a blueprint, and when we go to each store, we put that marketing blueprint in there. In fact, give you an example, Josh out there, when MedVed, not saying anything negative about John, but he was spending about $600,000 a month in marketing per month, and selling approximately between all our stores about 400 cars. We're spending about $275 selling 600 cars. So if you look at those models that we put in place, what we look for is the opportunity to become business partners with a lot of great vendors out there. There's a lot like Connect AI, Cox Automotive, that has some great tools, and we put those tools and those foundation tools into our launch as we launch into the dealership. Then we have a young man named Justin Pomeroy that does just an amazing job in the fixed operations. His total focus is fixed operations. So when we go into an operation, we basically want to make it better. We take things, we don't really buy broken stores, we buy bent stores. Actually, we just bought a store that's actually performing extremely high. And I hope we don't break that one, jokingly. But the bottom line, we go in there in the fixed operations, we go in there and we want to provide the same practices at all our dealerships. We use X-Time and we use Bin Solutions, and I'm not saying that those are the best. Those are the ones just we use, right? Because there's a lot of great vendors out there. We use DealerTrack, we use Accessa, we use a lot of different tools that go in there, and we show these operators and these employees, and we get their input and basically say, hey, what are you going through? Like we're the navigation systems of these dealerships, and the guys in the dealership are pilots. And then when you look at special finance and the changing things that's going on in the industry, Susan goes in and puts a written process of how we handle a lead. How do we do it virtually? How do we do it seamlessly? And how we do it, morally and ethically. And those are the things. And Chris Shearer, our used cars guy, he's amazing. He keeps us going on. He tells us what's going on. He's like, every day he's telling what's going on in the market, what's selling, where it's selling at. And we got this vast market that we can look at, East, West Coast, and Canada, that we basically can look at this big picture, and we take these snapshots and bring them back in as a group. We talk about how do we get better. So yeah, we go in with a plan. We go into a plan, and we take good dealerships with good cultures and we make them better. We take dealerships with bad cultures and put good cultures in. And that's kind of been our blueprint so far. And we've been very successful. Have we had some failures? Absolutely.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Attention auto dealers. You need an opportunity to do business. Autoweb is one of the largest suppliers of high quality leads. High quality buyers. At a 10% closing ratio, you will be at less than $190 per car sold. Don't just settle for what you get. Autoweb can fully customize your results through targeted markets and/or zip codes, and as a partner, you will get premium placement within search results. Who better to do that than literally the people that invented automotive internet sales? If you want to sell more cars more often and more profitably, then you need Autoweb.
I believe that right now with this whole economy and the chip shortage, and all, there's a lot of adversity with dealers. So I'm going to name a couple things, and then I want to hear how your Foundation Auto Group is overcoming them. So obviously there's an inventory crisis, there's a chip crisis. There's a lot of dealers that are, because of the lack of inventory, they've got to change tactics and try to get over list for cars. I have a lot of dealers, big stores, big groups that are using addendums. There's issues with used car inventory. Let's start there. How is your organization handling the inventory crisis and everything that comes with that?
First of all, we had to really pivot, because ultimately when you sell us cars, obviously there's salespeople, you lose good people. So the first thing we had to do is pivot and look at our pay plans and say, how do we motivate our salespeople from different aspects of maybe ordering cars and so we had to pivot on that particular situation, because our volume is down about 45-50%. That means that what's the motivation of a car salesman to sit there and get a lead on a car the customer wants to buy and he can't sell? So we've had to pivot, looked at salaries and pre-order commissions. We had to do that. In fact, if you don't take care of your people and your salespeople, you don't have a business. And when we buy these businesses, we buy them based on the previous performance and based on those employees. So when you look at that stuff and you say, okay, what are we going to do now? And as far as orders, going over sticker, it's really interesting. I have a hard time doing that. There is some premium vehicles like a Mega Raptor, or maybe some of the vehicles that are out there are hard to sell, but I have a little bit of a hard time charging and putting huge addendums on vehicles. just because there's a shortage. Because ultimately, remember that when you start gouging your customers now, they remember that they have an unbelievable memory. And as time goes on, and the way the world is if a guy bought his local dealership for 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, and he just paid $7,000 over on a Super Duty, and when that market comes back, he can go on the internet and have that vehicle delivered from another state. So we're very careful on that. What I tell my guys, it's extremely important to understand, listen to the customer. Very strong shortages when you talk about electric vehicles. There's a deal with electric vehicles with Ford. You can't charge over sticker. And so I like that business model, but the manufacturer takes care of the dealership. So it's been very, very tough. We've had to pivot a little bit. In the used car market, our biggest problem with the used cars, and I think everybody's going to probably be on the same board, you don't know what the car's worth today, what it's going to be worth tomorrow. I've seen values on used trucks go from 5,000 over MMR to the next day to 2,000 below MMR. So it's a daily game. We have done some very creative things in our company. In fact, we just partnered up with a company called buyyourcar.com. I hope I'm saying that right. Buyyourcar.com, that's out there buying vehicles and is actually buying them. And actually we're able to acquire cars from this company because ultimately they're able to buy the cars, not at the high auction prices. So we're trying to source our used cars a little bit differently. We're carrying a lower day supply. That helps us to pivot better into business, but it's a very challenging time. It's a very interesting time. Yes, the profits are up in a lot of dealerships, but I think that we got to be extremely careful as dealers out there, especially as dealer groups, because at some point that market's going to come back. This chip shortage is going to be over someday. It may be, I'm hearing second quarter, third quarter. I was just with the Ford group, and I was just Ford, the general manager. He was talking about this chip crisis. Yeah, it's going to come back, but they want to change their business model. They want to change how we sell cars. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Honestly, 38 years in the business, I've never seen it like that. But they want to change. They want to order 40% of the vehicles that are sold. I don't know if that'll work or not. Maybe that control costs, help with the margins. I don't know, but it's been a very challenging time. Those out there know all this. That it's unbelievable, quite frankly. And I feel like I'm a kindergarten student sitting there looking at a teacher who's been teaching for 20 years, and I'm learning and I'm absorbing this up and try to become better for the future for sure.
I'm going to tell you, you spot on so much stuff. One of our clients is Danny Zalowski. He's the dealer principal of an independent dealer group in Kansas City. And his big thing is vehicle acquisitions. He's net increased, probably about like $1,700 and $1,900 per copy because he's not doing any auctions. There's no transportation fees, and he's not using that service. He basically has built, like within his BDC, a VBC, a vehicle buying center, and they are basically buying over 130 vehicles a month. One of my other stores, Bob Ruth Ford, single point Ford store, we took this store from doing about 75 cars a month on the internet to 320 cars a month on the internet. Now they were only buying maybe 20, 25 cars a month. Now, last month, they bought 160 cars. And, there's just as much money, if not more, profit in acquisitions and buying the cars the right way. So I'm finding across the country for our clients, dealers that are developing their own vehicle buying center, their own acquisition center, or using things like you are doing, are having some type of relief. They're getting some help compared to the dealers that are just waiting for this to pass. The second thing that you said that I thought was really spot on, but interesting as hell, is that these manufacturers, I don't know if our listeners caught that, several OEMs, including Ford, I know this for a fact, are really trying to change how cars are sold. You just said 40%. I didn't know it was that high, but they're looking to have ordered cars, and which is going to have a dramatic effect. In Europe, there's a lot of stuff going on with these dealers where what I'm finding is that these manufacturers are trying to, at all possible, circumvent the dealership. What do you feel about that? You know what I mean? Like, I talked to my friend Glenn Lundy. You know Glenn Lundy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Glenn and I just talked yesterday about this, about the state of the automotive industry. And he's thinking in the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a massive change that a lot of people are not prepared for, because these manufacturers are really trying to, to go direct from the manufacturer to the public with these orders. What are your thoughts, especially when you have 20 something going into 40 something rooftops? Is that scary, or is that realistic that these OEMs are trying to circumnavigate you guys?
So I'm going to probably get in trouble when I talk about this. I have a lot of confidential conversations with the manufacturers, General Motors, FCA, Ford. I was with Ford. I worked on a project with Alan Mullally years ago, so I know the guys a lot up in Detroit and higher ups. We sit down and have these conversations about how the business model is changing. And I think people they hear these things on automotive news or a lot of the stuff about the industry's changing. The manufacturers want to change the business model, and the reason they want to is because, like Ford, confidentially, they want to package cars where they're easy to order, where essentially that they're not going to have 126 variations of ordering an automobile, and then they want to make it easier for the consumer to buy and then order it and try to speed up the process, meaning that going to the vendors, the tire vendors and the chip vendors, and say, okay, they can control that commodity cost. That sounds great. That does sound great. And again, I would love to do that. If I can reduce my floor plan interest. I'll give you an example. I just did a business model. When I get a 50-day supply of inventory in my dealerships, like I did in 19 or 18, a new car dealership. Imagine I have a 50-day supply based on what I'm selling. My expense will go up $1.2 million a month. Now, if you're telling me that I'll have 40 dealerships and my volume, I believe we're projected volume will sell 44,000 vehicles in 2022. So if I think about this, if I'm selling about 21,000 right now, we're going to go to 44,000. So that savings, if I can reduce my floor plan, I could probably save $2.5 million a month. Sounds great, right? Sean sounds like, hey, that's the business plan. Saves the manufacturer money. But one of the things that I find of it is we got to understand what the consumer wants. If you're trying to change the culture in the car business that hasn't been here since the 30s and 40s, because back in the 50s and 60s, people ordered cars. I mean, I remember getting in the business in the tail end of 83, people would come in, a guy would order his truck, be excited to be a family event. But the problem is we're on a right now situation. We're in a right now sales. We're in a right now, I want it now, and because if I don't, I might change my mind. Or the manufacturers, I got to push market share. We need those extra 15 sales at the end of the month. I just don't know how that business model is going to change. When Ford said 40%, and I just got an email on General Motors, and they want to do 25%. So all the manufacturers are kind of coming to this. Subaru is the only one with the best business model. They've had it for 20 years. It's been the sleeper cell, right? They have built 786,000 vehicles this year, and because of the pandemic, maybe 670,000 vehicles. Every one of them are pretty much pre-sold. So they've been doing this for a long time, but we're only talking about a small niche of cars. When you talk about back when I was with Planet Ford and Randall Reed and I were partners for, on and off for, 16, 17 years, is he wanted 3,000 cars on the lot because he knew on Labor Day, he was going to reduce the prices down to nothing and basically sell a car, doesn't matter the loss, and try to sell 200 cars in one particular day. The problem is that this is a great business model if it works. If every manufacturer gets on board, we can probably change the habits. But when all of a sudden, when the business slows down, I think we're going to sell 13.7 million SAR because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. This year. We were selling 17 million. Wow. So they got the capacity to build 17 million vehicles when we're back online. So it's going to be a situation of it is you're telling me that you're going to take 17 million new vehicles and you're going to pre-order 40% of them. I don't know. I think that's a lofty goal. I think that there's a lot of people in these glass houses up there and say, hey, this is what we're going to do this. But when the business changes and they have so much, when I was talking to the Ford rep, he says, we only got 100,000 vehicles to wholesale this next cycle. And everybody's scrambling for them. And I laughed. I said, I remember when you were wholesaling 700,000 and you couldn't give the cars away. So, so I don't know. I hope it changes. I'm hoping that I'll see that change. I think we'll see that with electric cars. I think electric cars will be more of an order situation, but I don't know.
It's interesting. In our group, a couple people jumped on what you said about your people. Let's pivot and transition the conversation. One of, if not the single most devastating aspect of our industry is attrition, in my opinion. There's a 70 to 80% attrition. A couple years ago, FCA Corporate won the horrible award where they had an 83% attrition ratio nationally for their OEM. And so here's the conundrum, I believe. The average dealership, as per NADA, spends about $64,000 a month in advertising, or $604 per car in advertising, but they spend less than $1,000 in training for their entire staff, managers, salespeople, BDC, reception, F&I, everything. I don't understand why. Unlike you guys got it right. But most stores rather throw crap against marketing advertising dollars than invest in their people. There's a phrase that one of my competitors a long time ago I loved. Did you hire him dead or kill him after you got him? Which means, did you hire the wrong people, or did you have the right person but didn't have an onboarding training strategy or treat them right and you lost them? So let's talk about this. You said that your people are an important asset. Amen. But why do you think that this is such a problem for our industry to recruit, hire, onboard, train, develop quality talent?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Did you know 40% of service calls go to voicemail or hang up?
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
How many times does it take for your customers to connect with someone at your store?
The world may never know.
Unless you have CallSource, CallSource customers connect with 96% of their clients' calls and convert over 85% of bookable calls to appointments. Really? If you're not performing at that level, or if you don't know, then text HELP to 855-963-2686 and receive a free evaluation of your store's performance.
Well, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. I know my guys are listening to me right now. I got to tell you. So the best way of an employee to get a raise today is quit. Because ultimately the problem of it is we found, and as we acquire these dealerships, we got key employees in the staff that you go out and you meet and you want to say, A, they're not trained, and B, they're not appreciated, and C, they're not paid right. If you're in a great environment, employee will stand and make a little less money as long as they feel like they're appreciated. We have learned this. I mean, it's not something that is acquired. As a guy coming through the 80s and 90s as a general manager, is that you don't, I'll give you an example. A great porter one time in 1998 came to me, says, I got to leave. He says, I'm making $10 an hour. I can go someplace and make 15. I said, well, what if I give you 15? The employee still quit. And I never forgot what he said. If I was worth 15 leaving, why wasn't I worth 15 when I was out there busting my butt? And I said, holy smokes. So the first thing that we do in our company, we kind of look at what people are making. And we try, one of the things I tell all the guys as we acquire dealerships, we're never going to reduce the employee benefits. We want to increase them and make them better. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. We've had to hire trainers. Kevin Kaczynski keeps telling me every day, Chuck, he said, I don't know, you got to get a handle on this deal, because ultimately we got to get trainers. We just hired a trainer. We work with Ted Ings, and we've worked with people. Love to work with you, Sean, on some stuff. Because I'm looking at a lot of your stuff. When you talk about you want to inspire and motivate people, I think that's a lot of it. If you inspire an employee to see there's a path to what they want in life, then you motivate them to get there, then you pay them. And that's the bottom line. What we're finding is that we don't do a great job. We're doing a better job. To say that anybody out there does a great job, there's dealerships that do. Are you looking at what your employees are making? If you had to replace that employee, how much would it cost you to replace that? And we're going through it We're going through it right now. I had Natalia put together a talent agency, 2 gals. One of them was in the industry, one of them wasn't. I said, give me your perspective of things and tell me how we do as a company in hiring. And she came back. She said, Mr. Kramer, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you guys are probably the worst. And I said, well, okay, well, tell me how I can get better. I don't mind people telling me if I'm doing a bad job, as long as they have a solution. Because if they have a solution to the problem, I don't have one, obviously, or I'd already be doing it. So, one of the things about our company, we try to pivot. Natalia came out of the industry. She does an amazing job, and she gives me a different perspective. She challenges me every day. And it's sometimes, obviously, a guy CEO being challenged. I don't mind being challenged. I have to be challenged. I have to be called out, and I have to be respectfully, of course, but I have to be, challenged and saying, hey guys, we got to do things a little bit different, because right now today, I was just looking at this. I need 150 employees. I got 23 dealerships. I need 3 or 4 operators right now. And we pay well. That's the thing. It's funny is one guy left us, did an exit interview with him. He said, I left. It's not that you don't pay well. You pay great. I'm going to take a pay cut leaving, but I don't see a path. And I said, what do you mean? I don't see a path to where I want to be. So sometimes we take our employees for granted, especially right now. If you're taking your employees for granted, you're going to fail, period. End of story. I don't care if you're selling Lexuses or you're selling the greatest widget in the world. If you don't have a good employee base behind you, you're going to fail.
Spot on. First of all, we need to talk after this. I don't know if you know, we do recruiting and staffing. We actually placed over 37,000 people in the United States already. So let me go back to what you just said. Man, you are on top of it, my friend. I could see why your organization is so successful. When we get into people, here's what happens. Dealers, if they don't develop their people, it's almost like sink or swim type, motion. We've heard for my 22 years in the business, your 30 plus years, we've heard that car sales is like owning your own business. The problem, Chuck, is this: if we don't teach salespeople how to be entrepreneurs, if we don't teach them about marketing, advertising, social media, branding, PR, finances, budgeting, things like that, the road to the sale and product knowledge is not entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? So just giving them basic road to the sale and OEM certification is not going to make them a successful person. If you look at all the top people, let's use Cody Carter. Cody Carter, it works at Tustin Toyota. This man sold 412 cars in the last 90 days. Okay, that's a lot of units on the showroom floor. He made over $1 million gross, and he also brought in $300,000 in personal income. Now, that's way different from the average person that sells 10 cars and makes $55,000 a year. So what's the difference between an Ali Reda, a Cody Carter? Well, in my opinion, they've been developed. They have the experience. They are building that brand within the dealership. There needs to be, in my opinion, a way better recruiting strategy, a way better onboarding strategy, and then development. There's a difference between training, then there's a difference between personal development, professional development, and team building. Those are 4 separate categories. And I think that if dealers that actually invest in personal development, professional development, team building, and, skill training are going to be successful. We talked about Glenn Lundy before. That is another case study that you've heard the story of, obviously, Dan Cummings Chevrolet in Paris, Kentucky, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay,
so how do you take a store that should only be doing 150 cars a month and you get to 1,000 units a month or 1,100 units a month, averaging 900. I interviewed Glenn for my radio show, and Glenn was saying, look, what we did was we flipped the script. We looked at what do our employees need, okay? And they need to be better parents. They need to be better spouses. They need to have financial stability. So what they did at that organization, they invested in consultants, in trainers, in workshops to be able to help them in marriage, in finances, in parenting, in life skills, because they became better human beings that improve the quality of life. If only thing that we work on is just objections, rebuttals, or closing, it's like going to the gym and only working out your arms and you have Gumby legs, right or wrong?
Right. No, you're 100% right. I got to tell you. So, first of all, I have 6 daughters, and I've never thought in my life that my daughters would want to be.
Wait a minute. God bless you.
I know, right? 2 sets of twins that are 19 at Auburn, and the other ones the youngest are 16 in high school. But what's interesting is I never really thought they would want to be in the business. So when the business, we're not perfect, and we're trying to get better. In fact, actually, quite frankly, it's my focus. That's my focus on, if you'd see my yellow pad, I have a yellow pad that basically says, how do we get better? And the reason we get better is we build an environment. I'll give you an example of one thing is females in the car business. They're just hard. They're almost like a unicorn. And I wonder why. And the reason of it is because could you imagine having a single mom saying, oh, it's the last week of the month and you got to work 8 to midnight, it's bell to bell or ding to dong, or, 8 of the gate. You use that terminology and all becomes so archaic. I mean, it's almost disgusting. My daughters have been, they're top of their class at Auburn in accounting. And they tell me, Dad, this is the way I want to buy my clothes. This is the way I want to buy my car. This is when I work for somebody. This is how I want to be treated. And I thought, well, maybe, and they're not spoiled. They're spoiled because they earned it, because I grew up extremely poor. And the bottom line of it, my daughters have a job. Their job is to do, be good people. They're not perfect, but the thing of it is we don't have an environment in these dealerships that a female could come in and feel comfortable. guys, it's just, we're in a world, or how diverse are you with your minorities? And, how do you look at your cultures? And those are the things that we work deeply in our cultures of. It is one of our stores, Eric Barbosa does a great job. 44% of his staff is female. And so when I go in those stores, it's a different vibe and different feel. Honestly, I feel like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I mean, growing up with a bunch of girls in the house, I mean, you think, okay, I'm used to it, but they want to be treated differently. And when you talk about that, is you're right. I don't think that what has happened in high schools these days is, when I was in high school and graduated in 1982, is they had a class that basically, one of my classes, I got to dress up every day. I had to have a checkbook, and they basically showed me, hey, when you leave high school, you're going to deal with a lot of things. They don't have that in school anymore. They just don't. And so when they come out of school and they go to college, and, there's some certain things that you're exactly right. And you don't have to go to college. I didn't go to college. Couldn't afford it. I graduated at 17, and, my options was either the Army or be a machinist like my dad, or work on the farm with my grandparents. That was my options. That was it. And I got a pair of jeans and a pair of brand new tennis shoes for graduation. That was it. And so, so I could have been a statistic like some of my friends and buddies that, basically have done nothing and gone nowhere, but I knew I wanted more. So as I learned, I didn't learn from my parents. Unfortunately, I had to learn from great mentors in the business that took me under my wing and said, hey, look, hey, it's not okay to drink all night. It's not okay to not to show up work on time. It's not okay to be dressed and shaven. And back then we had to wear ties. And I was taught that by great mentors. If I had those mentors, I don't know where I'd be today. So I keep preaching to our guys, say, guys, this is your most important asset that you have in your dealership. I mean, yeah, inventory is short, but your people are shorter. So you better find a way to find people and mentor them. And I agree with you 100%. I like what you just said. And I wrote that down because ultimately, I mean, I want to get better, and I want an environment that I am taking individuals that want to learn and take them to the next level.
If I may, I want to talk about the females in automotive for a second. My wife has been recognized by Automotive News as one of the top females in North America, which is very prestigious because they only do that every 5 years. She's the CEO of Dealer Synergy. But our daughter, our oldest daughter, her name is Tiana. She was nationally recognized for T Got Her Keys. So she was working at Patriot Buick GMC for 3 years. Because before I allowed my family to work for Dealer Synergy, they have to have frontline experience. So she, at 19 years old, joined the sales team on the floor, and then she started averaging about 18 to 20 units a month, but outgrossing people selling 25 to 27. Then my youngest daughter, who's 20 years old, has been working for the last 7 months at the RK Auto Group in New Jersey. She's also averaging about 20 units a month. So these young women are crushing it. And I agree with you 1,000%. There's not enough women in automotive for a myriad of reasons. One is the schedule. And there's a book from Jim Collins who I love, From Good to Great. And Jim Collins, says that, one of the worst things an organization could do is have crappy rules for good people. Usually the stupid rules in an organization are for the bad apples or the weak people, but they turn off the good people. And so I'll give you an example. In my opinion, and I hope I don't offend you because you're stores, but I think it is absolutely archaic and barbaric to force people to work bell to bell, especially every day, because I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand because I've been in the industry 22 years and I was a 30-car guy when I sold cars. And back in the day when we didn't have all this technology and video and social media or what have you, you had to work more hours to get a certain level of production. But if you're trained properly, you have the right resources, you don't need 30 minutes to cook minute rice, damn it, is my point.
Oh, right.
Because of that, it's hard to get females that have kids and responsibilities and everything else, and millennials, because of the crazy archaic schedules. So it starts with the paradigm. Dr. Covey says from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's what's called a see, do, get model. What that means is the way that people perceive something, the paradigm, that's going to influence their behaviors, their actions. And whatever their behaviors or actions are going to be a direct result or correlate to what they get. For example, if I feel that Cars Direct leads suck, which they don't, but if they did, I'm not going to work them hard. That's my behavior. I'm going to be really lazy with them. And what's my result? I'm not going to have a high closing ratio. But the paradigm switches. If I say Cars Direct leads are amazing, they're the best, I'm going to work them hard because they're important. And what's my result? They're going to be, a higher closing ratio. So the same analogy goes for this. If dealers really understood the value of female employees in sales and service and management, etc., then they need to understand that they need to change the way that they operate, whether it's the pay plan, whether it's the schedule, whether it's the way that they talk and treat their people that are working for them. And if they do that, the result they're going to get is like what you said, you know what I mean? At that store that's got, such a large female, audience or employees, is they're going to have just more profound success. So I think you're spot on there. And again, from a girl dad myself, I got 2 daughters and a diva wife. You know what I mean? Again, I don't know how you handle 6. Handling 3 is rough. You know what I mean? And you've got 7, the wife and the 6 girls. But yeah, God bless you.
And I got to tell you, one thing I want to add to that is the car business has always been deemed of the most dysfunctional thing for a family relationship, and it has been, and it's unbelievable. I have been married before, and it's always been a tough thing. When my daughter kind of hit home, it says Caroline, she graduated LSU, went to work for Enterprise. And, she wouldn't get in the car business. She wouldn't let her husband get in the car business because she says, I don't want to have the same, be the same as you. You're doing a great job. We love you and everything like that. But I don't want to have that life. And once you start realizing that as dealers out there, that those people, that's real, when you can have real conversations and have real criticism, listen to your employees, because if you're doing that, the bell to bell deal, I got to tell you, quite frankly, it's so archaic. It's so Fred Flintstone deal. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you're doing that today in the industry, I promise you, there's long days. I get it. Don't get me wrong. There's long days that, but to have a set deal back in the day was, hey, Monday through Saturday, we're bell to bell. And in Planet Ford, I opened at 8:00 and I was there at 11:30. When you have a sales staff of 52 people that have kids and families on a Saturday, you miss everything. So I just say it's changing. And I think that's why we're having such a problem in the car business right now.
Yeah, again, it needs to be a holistic approach. And one thing that I'm really proud of is me and my wife are the only partners and trainers in the entire automotive industry in North America with the Franklin Covey organization. Like, we are certified trainers in the 7 habits of highly effective people and the 5 choices of extraordinary productivity. The problem is that the only people that we do this training for is dealer groups, because our mom and pop stores or single point stores, they don't see the value. But it changed my life. It changed my wife's life. We own 11 companies ourselves, and we do all the stuff that we do because the 7 habits. But I encourage you, especially the caliber person that you are, if you haven't looked into the 7 habits of highly effective people for at least start with your executive team, it is phenomenal. 65% of all Fortune 100 and 500 organizations go through the actual curriculum. In addition to that, there's like 40 million copies of the book in print, and I believe that there are 6 million people have gone through. So there's 2 versions. There's the 1-day foundations course. So it's an 8-hour foundations course, and then there's a 3 full days signature course that really breaks down the whole 7 habits of highly effective people, which is everything from communication, time maximization, organization, leadership. And the synopsis is that most people, unfortunately, including your employees, my employees, most people in this world are codependent or dependent. That's right. Unfortunate, but that's the reality of the mental maturity. There are a bunch of people that are in the medium area, which are called, they're independent people. However, and this is powerful right here, the most sacred, the nirvana of any organization, in my opinion, in Covey's opinion, is interdependence. Interdependence is not about me or I, it's about us and we. It's about synergy personified. 2 or more agents that come together are greater than individual effect. Any organization that could tap into synergy of their team and interdependence is going to be massively successful. The challenge, especially in an automotive dealership, is to change from it's all about me, as I'm the salesperson, it's mine, or whatever, to a team mentality. Not pulling tips at a bar, but I'm just saying interdependent mentality. And that's what the whole 7 habits are. Yeah. So when I see people that really immerse themselves in the 7 habits of highly effective people, those are the people that are interdependent mindset, and they build organizations that are also interdependent.
That's great. That's great advice. And I appreciate that. And I'll definitely look into that. I'd like to hear more about that for sure.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Don't be the last one with your hand up at the auction. VinQ Vehicle Buying Center gives dealers the digital and in-store tools you need to buy direct from the public. On average, inventory bought from the public grosses $1,200 higher on the front end alone. VinQ turns buying cars direct from the public into a business. The most profitable dealerships in the country are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in additional front end gross. Private party acquisition starts with VinQ. See it at VinQ.com.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, before we wind down, I want to hear about your background, because before the show, we had a little, back and forth with me and you, and I was really intrigued because I'm from Queens and Brooklyn, which is really serious. And you said you're from Chi-Town for Chicago. So, so we already know that you're the COO of a multi-billion-dollar organization that's about to make more billions of dollars. So how did you start, though? Because you said that you didn't start rich in an Ivy League house, right?
No, in fact, actually, I mean, all joking aside, I didn't, I was so poor, we didn't even know we were poor. My mom was 17 when she had me, and my dad was 19, inner city Chicago. I was born in Chicago. My parents struggled all through life. And finally, when I was 12, I was getting in trouble. My grandparents lived in Kansas, outside of Wichita, Kansas. And, literally every day I'd get in a fight. It was either, you beat up or be beaten, basically what it was. And it was interesting because I thought that was just a way of life. I just thought that's how you survive. Some really bad decisions I was making at 12. And so November 14th, 1976, I was in school. My grandmother, I look up and my grandmother was standing in the doorway of the school, taking me out of school, actually flew us to Kansas. And November 14th, 1976, I still remember that day like it was yesterday. And it was a game changer for me because I went to Benton, Kansas. I went to a rural school in 7th grade that basically my graduating class in Chicago would have been, around 1,000. My graduating class actually was 67. And so I grew up in a small rural Benton community, and I learned really, really hard what hard work was like. And I realized one day I was actually working on the farm, and I was talking to a farmer, Mr. Bodecker, and he was talking about success and, taking control of your life. And then I just said one day, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I didn't have the money to go to college. And I went to work. There was an opening, actually, a kid in school. His brother was working at Vantage Ford Lincoln Mercury in El Dorado, Kansas. It was a DD point that just opened up, and I went to the dealer, and it was really interesting because he was the first black dealer promoted on a dealer development in El Dorado, Kansas. If you guys look it up on a map, it was really strange. And he took me under his wing, and I don't even know why. And I was his janitor. I cleaned toilets. Actually, I cleaned his car, cleaned his toilets. I picked up his kids from school. He really liked me. I wanted to do more, and then he put me in the lube rack, and I worked myself up to a salesperson. That was the greatest. I honestly, when I got the job and I got my first actually nice pair of slacks, I thought I had arrived. Back then, I thought if I could make $1,500 a month consistently, I'd be a millionaire. How I look back and can't believe it. I actually sold 20 cars a month. Otis had basically told me, he says, I can only take you so far. I went to work at Rusty Ford in Wichita, Kansas. I sold very quickly. It was the top salesperson, sold average 40 cars a month. And I remember Rusty telling me, I said, I want to be in finance. He said, Chuck, until you master the position of car salesman, being the best you possibly can, I'm not going to put you in that position. He did put me F&I. I worked myself through the dealerships, a new car, new truck, and had some great mentors, some amazing people. I met Cecil Van Tile. For some reason, I don't know why he liked me as a kid. He gave me some great opportunity with his company. And then I moved to Houston, Texas in 94. I worked for Charlie Thomas. Just a great organization. I wish, I think about this, but he sold out in 98 and the AutoNation, and I worked for them for a short period of time, not trashing AutoNation, just wasn't for an entrepreneur. Great company, does a great job, but just wasn't for me. It wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be. So I met a guy named Randall Reed, and Randall Reed was 39 years old, had big dreams and big visions of being the largest Ford dealership in the United States. And today he is. I was a partner with him on and off for about 15, 16 years. What a great experience for me. And I just learned a lot. I was able to get close with the manufacturers, understand how that works. I learned from the Van Tile Group, from Randall Reed, Charlie Thomas, some amazing people. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. But then I met the greatest guy. I got to honestly tell you, Kevin Kaczynski. I met him in 18. And it was funny because it was like, he told me, imagine this, a Canadian sitting there in front of me saying that he's going to have 42 stores in 3 years. I've been in 5 years in the car business. I looked at him and said, okay, are you a billionaire? Nope. We're going to go raise the money and we're going to work this and we're going to work this together. And I said, I thought he was crazy. I said, you know what? I'm crazy too. Let's try it. And hired some great people. And that's where we are today. And if it wasn't for Kevin and his team, his family and my family, we wouldn't be here today. But more importantly, I got to tell you, it's about the people that trusted me through the years, that followed me through the years. The kid I just put in, I hired in 94, now as my service manager at Kramer Subaru. I mean, it's about people trusting you and following you and believing in you. And if you don't have that, then basically, if you just basically exist in this business, and you know what happens when people exist, they become archaic and dinosaurs. So that's kind of my history. So
that's amazing, my friend. So what is it like for you now to just, when you sit back and you realize the position that you're in? I don't mean just financially. I mean, the fact that you've got this amazing, beautiful family, you have this success, you have this responsibility, and you are doing so much for all of your employees, all your clients. What is that like, knowing where you started from in Chicago and to where you're at now? What's that like when you reflect?
It's funny. I jokingly say that I might be the poorest wealthy person you've ever met in your life. I just don't take anything for granted. I don't know. It's really weird. And it's funny. I think about my great grandmother that would, went through the Depression, that had all this money. And I would say, why don't you spend some of it? She says, because ultimately this is who I am. And she was very influential in my younger days. And I think it's understand that if you got to appreciate the people around you and appreciate everything that God's given you in life. And more importantly, you got to give back. I feel very strongly about this. And I'm talking when I was a child, if it wasn't for some families and some of the government programs, we didn't have a lot of food, but I had a lot of food. Right. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting, because people help other people. And if we're not willing to do that, especially in the position that I'm in, then you know what, you shouldn't be in the position, quite frankly. So Charlie Thomas told me one time, he said, it's not how much money you leave on this earth because you can't take it with you. It's how many people attend your funeral. And I really feel that. And I'm the first one to help anybody, no matter what it is. I'm a little older now. I don't like my son-in-law just moved. I won't help them move anymore, but I'll pay for the movers. Right. But ultimately I'm blessed. It's very surreal for me. I mean, I think about this all the time, driving to work today, and I was driving a really cool car. And I'm thinking, man, I just remember seeing these cars. I never thought I'd be driving one. And sometimes in the places that you go in life, or, I always approach vacation that enjoy the last day of vacation, because it could be the last time you'll ever be there in your life. So enjoy every second of it. Block it out of your mind, look around and see what God has done in this building, this amazing earth. And I'm just, and I'm not perfect. Let me tell you something. I still like to have a few beers and, be a little rowdy sometimes, but I will tell you that I am very appreciative of the people around me and the success that I've had. And it's because of a lot of people, a lot of mentors.
I love it. Okay, so again, it's the last day of the month and you got a lot of stuff going on, so I don't want to monopolize your time, but I do want to ask a couple quick questions. Sure. I want to get your advice for, as you know, that a lot of people listen to this podcast, and there's a lot of people listening to you right now live in our Facebook group. What advice do you have for, I'm going to go into this area, salespeople, managers, then an owner. So for salespeople, so people that, whether they just started their career or they're a veteran, what advice do you have for them to help them maximize this amazing opportunity called automotive industry?
I think that use the tools around you. You're an influencer. I tell everybody all the time, you're a leader. You just depend what day you'll lead. You'll lead positively or negatively. Always try to lead positively, because no matter what position you are in the company, you're a leader to somebody. And the thing of it is I always tell the new salesman coming in that says, you're so much more blessed than I was because of all the technology. I think that we take for granted some of the opportunities that we have in the social media world because there's so much negative. Be positive. I mean, I tell everybody, especially as younger salespeople come in, don't get caught up in the political or religion or anything that's controversial in a conversation. Be positive. Always be, showing positive things. It could be a puppy. It could be, somebody just ringing the bell after they just cancer, but be a part of that, be a part of your community. But more importantly, listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Sometimes it's easier to listen. You want to listen twice as much as you speak. I really feel I have a salesman that sells 57 cars a month in Henson, 57 consistently, 600 vehicles last year. And the whole entire complex sells 250. Just remember how important this guy is. A Hispanic guy, an immigrant that came over from Mexico, and he's so humble and makes a lot of money. I mean, guy makes over $400,000 a year. I shouldn't say that, but I do, because I think it's important. It's important comment.
Awesome.
He is, and he is so humble and such a nice guy. I get 10 or 15 letters. I don't even connect the store about how a great person he is. Be a good person and be genuine and work hard. And you don't have to work 12 hours a day to work hard. I'm talking work 3 hours hard and plan your day. I just think that the salesperson's job is probably the easiest job, I kind of say, today's world with all the technology.
Amen. Okay, now what about sales managers, GSMs? Because they have a different responsibility. Their responsibility is to, nurture, cultivate their team, and try to support them, identify any obstacles or problems, alleviate them, enhance them. So what advice do you have for people that are in management? How can they maximize what they're supposed to do in their careers?
I always tell everybody, don't be a dictator. Talk with your people, not to your people. So many times it says, and sometimes, managers forget that when you're talking to a salesperson, that they're maybe nodding their head yes, but it maybe didn't compute. And they don't want to do that because they're embarrassed, because maybe you'll embarrass them or basically put them down. I think that we have to always understand of it is imagine your employees like your child, that basically you're there to teach them and help them to the next level. And just like you wouldn't yell at your child if he's learning to walk and they fall down, you wouldn't scream at him like, are you stupid? Why can't you walk? Well, because I don't know how to. And I think sometimes I feel like a lot of feedback that I get from the manager, he just talks down to me, or he doesn't like me, or he just came in a bad mood. Hey guys, I always tell everybody 2 things you want to do is, check your mood unless it's positive, or check your attitude at the door when you walk in the door when you're leading people, because people see you. You're leading by body language, and be loyal. And the problem that I find in this industry of it is sometimes, as I jokingly say this, I don't know if I should have left Rusty Eck Ford. The owner loved me. He loved me like a son, and I left. And he always told me, Chuck, this would be all yours if you'd have stayed. But I was silly. I was like, I got upset over maybe a few $100s when I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the whole thing. And sometimes managers, and they get upset, their pride or the principal gets, something happens and their pride gets hurt and they leave, or they get lured away because they think that there might be a better way. We truly sit down with our guys and tell them, you will be a dealer if you want to be one. We'll buy you a store. It's just that, how do you lead? I mean, and are you committed? I have managers that have bad months and good months. They have bad days and good days, some rules they like and don't like. Always understand that if a rule or a policy gets put in place, there's a reason for it, and embrace it and understand it. Ask questions, but be respectful. But I think too many times managers jump ship. They think, oh, okay, I was promised this deal, and then they come back. I can't tell you how many people has left and called me back, said, man, they lied to me. No kidding. Unfortunately, I try not to hire those people back. In some cases we're not perfect. I'm learning every day. I mean, I am truly learning every day. I have made every mistake that you can possibly make. I managed aggressively. My favorite saying when I was 23 was my way or the highway. That's the stupidest saying that if anybody's saying that today, they'd get out of the car business. There's no such thing as my way or the highway. There's no such thing. And when we learn those things, and I use those things, I use intimidation, I use, being aggressive and raising my voice, it doesn't work. And if you're doing those things every day, you think you might have that good month or that great month. You might be pounding your chest. There's people right behind you that don't want to work for you. And when you learn that, and you learn that try to manage everybody the same but differently, I guarantee you'll be a lot more successful.
Last question, then we're going to wind down, is okay. Same thing for a dealer, operator, or partner, somebody that's in charge, an executive management position, especially with the climate of the industry and all the stuff that we talked about staff, about females, and all that stuff. Give us your amazing feedback to dealers that are listening to this right now. What feedback and advice would you give them?
So over the past 6 months, me and Kevin looked at 600 deals. We've met with multiple dealers. I see the biggest common mistake that they get so fixated in what they think is right that they don't understand what is really right. I would tell you that it's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to basically, like this 7 habits that you just told me about. I mean, that's something that I'm going to basically take back with me. There's takeaways. I listen. In fact, I was just at a panel with 5 or 6 very good dealers actually for Ford. And I know 2 or 3 of them really, really, really well. And I was listening to them. And one of the guys, I don't want to say because I was taken back a little bit because he was a little bit more one-sided. And in today's world, you better have your mind open. It's like taking the top of your head and opening it up and let all this information come in. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to listen and to your employees. More importantly, I think you need to listen to what's going on in the industry, not just because this is the way we used to do it, or I've had a lot of success in the last 15 years. Those are the guys that are selling. They're not wanting to sell. Nobody wants to sell a dealership making $10 million a year. They're selling it because they're declining net profits, going, they don't know how to fix it. So they're going to old school tactics, and they're basically going, well, it worked in 1975 or 1987. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The customer's different. The employee's different. The times are different. Just every day is different. So if you're not really totally immersed into what's going on a daily basis, I would tell you that we will buy your store. Just kidding. We will definitely, I would just give you a lot of people advice. So we've had some advice to some guys that were selling the stores and said, look, if you just hire the right guy and give him the control and let him do what he can do best, you don't have to sell your store. There's situations we've had that just recently. I told the guy, says, I don't know why you're selling. He said, well, I just can't run it these days. I said, well, because your thinking's too archaic. Just listen, be a leader, try to be a good person. And I try to do that every day. I'm not always, I try really hard. And so, all I can tell you is if you can't look at yourself and be your biggest critic and try to change, then you're going to fail. Just period. You're going to fail.
Man, listen, this was a real honor to be able to spend all this time with you today and just get some tremendous amount of wisdom. I do appreciate you taking the time. And again, thank you so much.
So there you have it, the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. This podcast comes to you every week from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you have a question about the show or would like the chance to become a guest, feel free to contact us directly at 856-546-2440 or email us at millionairecarsalesman@gmail.com. This program is a presentation of Synergy Records, produced by Tiana Mick and L.A. Williams. Production and engineering by L.A. Williams. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is hosted every week by L.A. Williams and the Millionaire Car Salesman himself, Sean V. Bradley. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast can be found everywhere, so please don't forget to review, subscribe to, and share the show. Thanks for listening to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, and remember, where I'm from, money provides options. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is sponsored in part by VinQ and Autoweb and CallSource. If you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a review. Let some other folks know about it. Oh, and don't forget to join the Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook. We'll see you there.